Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 14 of Shakin Hands. I'm your host, Jack Moran. You can find me on Instagram at Blue Collar Kid. That is Blue Collar KEHD. We have an awesome guest today, Karlee Hart, the founder of Beachkrew, a beach-inspired lifestyle brand. How we doing?
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. So obviously, this is a podcast on entrepreneurship. I want to dig into your journey a little bit. So I'll just get right into it. How did you become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes all the way back when I was 8 years old. I think I started my first business, we'll call it. I was watering the plants of my neighbors, and I remember I made flyers and all of that. So I think I've kind of always had that in me. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, his dad was an entrepreneur, and then my dad started his own business as well when I was in high school. So I think I always just kind of saw that spirit around me, and I think I always kind of knew I had it as well. I just never knew what I could possibly start. So I feel like in high school, I actually was just remembering I had made, I put this whole order together to make boathouse jackets for our lacrosse team that was super popular at the time. So I kind of designed those. So I feel like that was maybe my start into designing apparel. But otherwise, I wasn't really thinking too much entrepreneurship. I was just playing sports and super competitive in sports. And then I guess when I got to college, I feel like that's when I was really okay, I'm not loving this college life like I thought I would. I think everybody is kind of oh, the best 4 years of your life. And I was kind of just not really, I wasn't playing sports anymore too. So I think I was kind of just itching for something to do. And I was a sophomore when COVID hit. So then I ended up just spending a lot more time at home in New Jersey. I was at the University of Delaware. It was only an hour away. So I think I just ended up spending a lot more time at home and just kind of got busy, starting to come up with ideas to start a business. And that's kind of how Hats by Karlee formed, which turned into Beachkrew.
So you talked about a little bit in your childhood, you started these little businesses, and I read a ton about psychology and how your childhood really shapes who you are today.
Yeah.
Or your experience when you're older. Was there any other driving factors in your childhood that gave you the mindset or the personality that would allow you to succeed as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think so. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and there's a little bit of an age gap between me and my older siblings. So I think I definitely had that baby energy about me, but I also felt like an only child, I think at times a little bit, because they were just older and going off to high school. And I also just wanted to be able to do what they were doing. I remember my sister got her ears pierced when she was 10, and somehow I convinced my parents to get it when I was 8 or whatever. So it's always kind of that just lifestyle of wanting to be, mature like them and be able to keep up with them. So I think that had a big part of it. And also a lot of my journey, I feel like my dad and I are super close, and he's obviously entrepreneurial, as I said, and he would just see my eyes light up. I thought I wanted to be the next Mia Hamm or something when I'd play soccer. So I think I always had these female leaders that I was looking up to. And then my dad was all right, if you really want to do this, I'll show you how to get there. So even I remember in high school, I was coming up as a freshman for this really competitive, really good women's team for high school. And my dad was all right, I just read this whole article or watched this video. Let's shoot 10,000 shots this summer. So I was okay. So he kind of always paved the way, I feel and he heard my dreams and then helped me put them into action. So that's been a huge factor, I think, in a lot of my entrepreneurship, just having his kind of guide along the way. And then my mom's also super supportive. So I think I always had a lot of support. And when I would share my dreams with my parents specifically, I was never kind of made fun of. Maybe they'd be all right, that sounds pretty ambitious. But I feel I had kind of the support to be able to understand that that could become a reality.
So him being an entrepreneur, what were the key fundamentals, or what were the main tips that he contributed that you still value today?
Yeah, I'll never forget, he always told me next play. I remember during my basketball season in high school, when I was then getting starting minutes and playing on varsity a lot, he would always just kind of remind me, yeah, you can, make a bad play or whatever, but if you kind of spend the rest of the game just worrying about that bad play, you're going to keep making bad plays. And he would always yell at me from the sidelines next play. And I think that was such a big part of my journey of just like, okay, you mess up, but just go get the next play, go get it back better. And kind of that whole mindset shift, I think he really instilled that in me, which again has just been a huge part of my journey. So
yeah, and in entrepreneurship, like you really do have to just focus on the next thing because you're running into adversity constantly. Like how do you deal with adversity as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think we were kind of talking earlier about how mindset, I think, in an entrepreneur's world is everything. And I think for me, in kind of my older life now, as I am 24 years old, but as I get older, I think I just listen to so many podcasts and I just want to be a sponge and always soak in knowledge of how can I be stronger mentally, I think a lot. So for me, it's like, all right, you know, cold plunging is the new thing. Let me try that. Or it's like, let me wake up really early and try meditation. And there's been some really, really challenging moments, I feel like, mentally for me as an entrepreneur. Again, just trying to find the balance as I am in my early 20s. And I didn't end up finishing college. So I feel like I dropped out going into my senior year for the business. So I think my life has been a little bit of a different road and, you know, a lot of imposter syndrome and whatnot that comes with that. So I think I always just try to find really helpful tips and practices for like wellness, I guess, almost that can help my brain just as a person. And then I hope that that kind of can help the decisions I'm making in business.
So it's interesting that you mentioned meditation and cold plunging. I'm super into meditation.
Okay.
Why do you think it's beneficial as an entrepreneur? Like, why is that a practice that, or why should that be practiced by entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I remember actually when I first moved down to Charleston, which was about a year and a half ago. So at that point I had like a pop-up store, I guess, in New Jersey. I was in a smoothie shop selling Beachkrew, and then also a pop-up store, not yet, actually down here, just moved down. And I remember, I'll never forget, my first apartment, I had a 2-bedroom. My business was in one and 1 bedroom and I was in the other. And I remember every morning I had like all these books in front of me, a journal and, you know, my Bible and everything. And I feel like that's your only chance to kind of slow down. I think as an entrepreneur, your mind is constantly racing. You're constantly wondering what the next thing and the bigger, better thing you could be doing to grow your business. And I think that mindfulness practice, I can't always keep up with it and I want to, but I think that chance to slow down and really kind of think about how you're feeling, but also like how you want to feel. I think life's so much the story you tell yourself. So I do truly believe in the affirmations and all of that to be like, you know, I am capable, I can do this, because it's a very lonely road, I think, as an entrepreneur. So to be able to have that kind of mental toughness to be like, okay, it's not weird to sit down, you know, by myself and just really try to think about how I'm handling what's going on, but also how I want to be better and how I want to handle it, and just kind of have that good practice. I think that's really important.
And a lot of people think that affirmations are like kind of woo, but I think that like your internal really does drive your external reality. So if you can have discipline over your internal mindset, it's funny how like that starts reflecting in like your reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think even with, you know, growing a team and stuff now too, I think that's so important to be like, we can do this, this will happen. And not that I make the girls, you know, say those kind of things, but just it all starts with me and trickles down, you know, as the owner. So I think I have to try to make sure my mindset's right. And like I said, I love just learning. So I think reading books, spending that time, you learn so much about yourself and you always need to be growing. So,
and as far as meditation, like this is kind of how I explain it, at least there's multiple practices of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that I think is like most beneficial for entrepreneurs is like when you go into a meditation, focusing on your meditation object, which you set an intention to like pay attention to that at the beginning,
mm-hmm.
which like for me would just be like my breath. Typically it's like breath.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple task, right? Or well, it seems like a simple task. Like just keep your attention on your breath for that designated time that you set your intention for. It's like I am intending to go into this,
right.
Pay attention to my breath for 30 minutes without distraction. But such a simple task within 3-4 minutes, like something else comes up and you're thinking about like, oh, I didn't do my laundry today.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And especially as an entrepreneur, right? The to-do list is endless. I think breath work definitely has been huge for me. In the morning, sometimes, you know, I might not have time or I might not be making the time for a full like 15 minutes or whatever to really kind of get into that mindfulness meditation, as we're saying. But breath work has been huge because I've had a lot of very nerve-wracking moments and a lot of, you know, sleepless nights, and just kind of taking those really deep breaths for sure. I think it's so important in anybody's life to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And there's a lot of great tips out there now. So,
and you think it's like a simple task to like keep your attention on that breath, and like those distractions do come up even when you're in this quiet, like undistracting setting. And it's like, if you can get good, like extrapolate that to the real world, like people all the time set these intentions, like I'm going to start a business, but then, the next big party comes along and that distraction, it pulls your mind away. And next thing you know, you set this intention to start a business, but now you're back like doing something else. And like having that introspective awareness to like bring yourself back to the breath or whatever that intention was is like why I think that meditation like really translates to the real world.
Yeah, and I'm traveling a lot now as well, going back and forth from Jersey to South Carolina and just other places. And I just saw something recently that said even just setting your intentions for like traveling, being like, why am I here? What's, the purpose of this trip? And to really go into that, because I definitely kind of live in my head at times. I think I'm an overthinker, and obviously it can probably help when it comes to business, but overall it can be super detrimental, I feel like, to, just the mindset. So it's been really cool to be able to add those tips being an entrepreneur, because, I've made Beachkrew so much not about my entrepreneurial journey, but I think it is, something that is so important, because I do want to just be able to inspire people to do something, similar or follow their dreams as an entrepreneur. So I'm just happy to be talking about it.
And you said before, like when you started the business, you got a 2-bedroom, like one bedroom was your room, the other was the business.
Yeah.
How do you separate your business life and your personal life? Or do you, or does it overlap? Like, how does it affect your personal life?
It's funny. I think I'm still learning that for sure. As a 24-year-old, I started the business when I was 21. But again, I think, just starting a business in college, I think that probably says a lot about me of what just kind of how I want to live my life and what I really care about. I definitely try to make as much time as possible for my friends. They mean the world to me, and it's really cool because, if I'm hanging out with them, they're probably repping Beachkrew, or, I'm wearing it, and that starts really cool conversations with other people, or they'll text me and they're like, oh my gosh, I just saw Beachkrew at, this place, whatever. So I think I've just been so blessed, I think, to have really, really great family and friends who are so supportive of me, and they check in on me all the time, asking, how are you doing? Like, how is this going? And I can go on long walks and talk with them about everything, because they see the real of what's going on behind the scenes that not many people get to see. But yeah, I definitely try to prioritize time with them, time for hobbies. Not that I guess I probably really have hobbies or have time for hobbies. They're my hobby, I always say. But yeah, just like working out, wellness, and friends and family, as much as I can, I try to prioritize that, because I know that that's what brings me happiness and joy and peace in my life, and that's what I truly care about, is making sure that it's not all business, but they know that it's all business most of the time. So they're great.
It can be tough to have that divide.
Oh yeah, totally.
I want to talk about Beachkrew, but I want to get into like the kind of the early story of it.
Yeah.
Obviously starting a business is like, you're not half in or half out, like to have a business as successful as yours, you have to be fully committed.
Yeah.
And that takes a decision to make that leap into it. What was that like early decision to start the business? Like what were the early days of Beachkrew?
Yeah, so it's funny. I always say I'm very all or nothing, which I think can, be sometimes a bad thing. But for this case, so when I was finishing my junior year at the University of Delaware, and like I said, because of COVID and just some different situations, I was spending a lot of time at home. And I remember I should have been studying for finals. I was doing online finals, I guess, and my brother was home. He was transitioning from Chicago to Philadelphia, and I remember I looked at him and I was like, I have a business idea. And he was like, great. Like, he's like, you should be studying. Like, what are you doing? But later on, I knew he wasn't laughing at me. He was just like, of course this is what she's doing right now. But I think, so I saw trucker hats, I guess, kind of like trending online, where people would kind of make like custom ones where you could have like, blue foam trucker hat and then put this cool patch on it. So I think for me, it was something that I kind of was like, okay, maybe this could be like a business venture. Maybe it could just be fun over the summer. So I ordered in a hat off of Amazon, like a foam trucker hat, and iron-on patches off of Amazon as well. And I remember I got like 5 of them each or whatever, and I had to Google and research, how do you get this iron-on patch onto the hat? So that took a lot of time to kind of figure out, but I'll never forget, I had like a bowl flipped upside down. I had the trucker hat on top of the bowl, and then I would have a pillowcase on top of like the hat to protect the hat, and then the patch, and have my mom's iron like making hats. So somehow with YouTube and whatever, I kind of figured out how to make these cool custom trucker hats. So from there, I think it was really just, again, at that time I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be something huge and I'm going to drop out of college. I had no idea what the future held, but at that time I was like, I'm just going to go all into this and see, you know, what kind of business I can make this over the summer. So from there, I just went crazy listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and just getting all the knowledge that I could. I connected with, you know, different people on the way and was like, okay, apparently wholesale is this really great thing. So then I started wholesaling hats to boutiques. So, oh my gosh, I was messaging so many boutiques off of my Hats by Karlee account on Instagram. And so that was in May of 2021, and messaging like stores local to me, especially at the shore. I know it was summer, so I was like, hey, I'd love to get these hats in your shop. They're really popular. People were just messaging me on the Instagram. I was following people like crazy. Like, I remember Instagram would block me because they thought I was like a robot with the amount of people I was following. So every night I would just lay in bed and just go through like accounts and follow them, just hoping that people would see the page. And then, you know, I saw when people were seeing the page, and I was working really hard on like the aesthetic of the page at that time. Over like the month of May, people were responding really well to it. So then I felt like it was going well. So from there, I kind of, you know, researched how to start a website and all of that. But
so you said like in the beginning, you were like trying to get a bunch of knowledge. You're watching a bunch of podcasts. Mm-hmm. What were like the key insights that were like maybe turning points for you, that where you were like had an aha moment like that really catalyzed you into the success?
Yeah, I think I was just so inspired by, again, like the mindset of an entrepreneur and the resilience of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I think I've always been really into like self-growth, and I think I kind of have that like act now, think later mindset sometimes, where I just like try to go for something and hope that it'll work out. But at the same time, I think there's kind of that thing sometimes of like, oh, this really took off overnight. This is overnight success. And sometimes I do think that, you know, a TikTok can take off overnight or something, but there's so many steps that go behind the scenes to get there. And I think I was just like, I can learn anything. Like, you can learn absolutely anything on YouTube, you know, podcast, any of it. And I just loved that every single story I felt like that I was listening to on, you know, Ed Milet's podcast or whoever, it was all the same story of just, they felt like they had something and they just threw themselves all into it. There was no distractions. And so I think I just had my summer, you know, being in college, I had nothing going on. But I was actually working at Lululemon for like 2 months right before I started the business down the shore. And they had this really laid back like environment at that Lululemon specifically because it was by the beach. So it was kind of funny because I think that was my in to kind of see like retail almost while I was starting to make hats. So I think that's where I kind of got some knowledge that I still carry today. And even as we advance, I'm like, oh, I know that we can have these chips that can make this and the tags that can make processes easier. So that's kind of moving ahead. But I think just being able to kind of see how retail business worked as I was starting mine, very different, since mine was very custom. But yeah, I think I was just so inspired by the stories that I was hearing and was just kind of learning as I went. So.
What's the key to retail? I think that's like, it's a tough business.
Yeah.
How do you succeed in retail? What are the like?
Yeah, I love this question. So I think that's something that's been so, that people really see with Beachkrew is, I think something that's a passion for me is that I'm serving others. I think that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you can kind of get really stuck in your head and have, again, some really, really hard times, a lot of, you know, challenges and adversity that you're going to face. But for me, like the joy that I see in people's faces, and that started when, you know, they were coming into a smoothie shop that wasn't my own and buying stuff and flooding the store to come buy Beachkrew. So I think that the key to retail is just obviously the customer's experience, but it's not just, oh, they really like this sweatshirt that they're buying from me. I mean, people come in and compliment our quality all the time, and that's a really big focus for me, so it means so much. But to just even see them interacting with my girls and to see how they treat me and they're, you know, want to hear my story and all of that, it really has been, I think, the catalyst for, or just what's really taken Beachkrew off is just that really positive energy. I don't know that I've been to a whole lot of other stores where I just feel completely accepted and welcomed every time I walk in. Like, doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or you're, you know, just an everyday person or whatever your story is. You know, we want you in here. We want you to feel like you can wear whatever. And we try to make our sizing and our fits, you know, we've really expanded to just have everybody welcome here. So I think that's been something that's been really special for Beachkrew. And I think that's something that not everybody knows about our stores, like how well our stores do. And that's why I just want to open up as many as I can someday, hopefully, just to keep bringing that joy to the different towns, because it truly, I think, is really incredible what goes on in here.
So what's your plan for Beachkrew? Like, where do you want to go? What inspires you? Like,
yeah. So I think, like I said, it would be really cool to just have a bunch of stores, you know, in different towns along the East Coast. I definitely love the Northeast Coast. That's where I'm from, and would love to expand there. But I think for Beachkrew, for me, it really started kind of based on the beach-inspired lifestyle, because I think that so many people find that they're the best selves in that beach-inspired, you know, environment. And for me, that's why now I'm grateful, you know, and blessed to live in two kind of beach towns and spend my time here. But I know my friends it's like, let's go to the beach because you just want to feel better, like, right, or be by the ocean or be by the water. So I think for me, it's been so many, like, just trying to keep, you know, the ball moving for a while. So much has happened in the past 3 years, but I think definitely more like community events. We've been diving into that just to kind of bring people together and have them a part of something that's positive. But in the apparel, you know, side of things, I am trying to make pieces that I can't find as well. So besides just kind of having sweatshirts that we, you know, put our cool designs on and make sure they're really high quality, and I've worked really hard to source the best quality I can. I'm also, you know, going to move into hopefully like swimwear and some knits and linens and some pieces that I'm designing, you know, from scratch and seeing them come in person, whether that's domestically or overseas or whatever. So I'm really excited to be moving into that in the future.
So as a female entrepreneur, have you had to encounter any struggles?
I don't think necessarily in that way. I've never really had a problem like talking to adults. I think that's something that's helpful. I think it is kind of funny being from the North, because I think I kind of have that like way about me a little bit. I definitely have the approach of asking for forgiveness, not permission, I think. So I think I kind of just have those qualities about me anyways. But like I said, I honestly just want to be able to inspire women. And I think that's why, you know, I've always kind of kept myself and my story behind the scenes and just tell people who ask and want to listen. But that is something that's so important to me with this journey and everything that I'm going through. I just know that I can inspire, because that's what I just think about is when I was a young girl, to your point, you know, for sure, I didn't see as many women CEOs or, you know, business owners. And there was a couple along the way where I was like, wow, that's so incredible that they weren't worried about, you know, what they would look like or if they're too tough or anything or too driven. I think you can totally balance that as a female and, you know, eventually being a mom and all too. I've just been so inspired by people that I've looked up to. And I think that I just want to make sure that I'm inspiring somebody who is just like I was in high school, wondering if, you know, they can make it as well. And then also the girls on my team, you know, we have mainly a female team, and just making sure that they know that they can do anything they put their mind to too. I think that's been really an honor for me to kind of be their leader.
Yeah. What advice would you give to like other women to maybe like jump into entrepreneurship, or like even just like the mindset or like things that they may be dealing with internally that you think would be, or that you know of that your friends have that you think would be beneficial to them?
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't have that perspective, so
yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I think, again, this might just be kind of in general. Girls, I think, you know, kind of can be catty or whatever, but I think people in general, and it's just like, just don't care what people think. I think that's the biggest thing is females, we're totally always comparing ourselves to each other, especially online. And I think that's probably, you know, been a reason maybe why I'm not always the model on every, you know, photo shoot we have or whatever we do, because I just don't feel like, you know, having to judge myself as we do. But I think that's been something that's been really big for me is I'm like, why, if I'm just fearing what other people think, you know, someday I'll be at the end of my life and be like, oh my gosh, why did I ever worry about what people cared? I should have followed my dreams. So I think that would be kind of my advice is if you know you're solving a problem, if you know it's your purpose, if you know you're helping people, just jump all in and don't worry about kind of, you know, other people are saying, because that's what's been really cool. I think at one point I was really fearful of, oh my gosh, what do people think? You know, they think I'm starting a business, but at this point I just feel so supported, even by people who I haven't seen in years. They'll see me in public and just be super nice. So I think I've just been really appreciative. I come from a really small town, and my mom will bump into somebody at the grocery store and they're just been so kind. So I think you'd be surprised how supportive people really will be. You just, stay genuine and make sure it's, just for, again, solving a problem or trying to serve others, and I think you'll be all right.
How do you block out that inner self-criticism that limits so many people?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I deal with it a lot. I think I'm extremely hard on myself. And again, I think it's just, my mom is awesome. She's like a therapist, basically. So she's so good about just kind of helping me, be able to deal with everything. But I think just reminding yourself that you're human, and the road to anything that's great in life is going to come with so many challenges. And I think that's kind of what's been the coolest part, is whenever I get to something that, like even opening, Sullivan's, the next door, it's like, why should I think that I can do this? There's just no way. This is crazy. And I think it's just like, kind of let me prove that to myself too. I think I'm always in competition with myself at the end of the day, and just knowing again that if I'm practicing the right things and, trying my best and bringing on people who, are really genuine as well, I think that truly the sky's the limit. And I think just to kind of shut up that voice that's in your head is just showing up. I think that's the biggest thing. If I always tell myself, I'm like, if fear is the only thing stopping me, then that's not a good enough excuse. That just means that I have to get better and, keep developing my own mindset and myself as, a person again. I'm
hitting some adversity.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think,
you gotta block out the flies.
There you go. Yeah. Again, I think that inner voice in your head I know it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be there. But again, I think I've learned from podcasts, from leaders who've, gone before me, that it's like showing up is the basically main way to build that confidence that you do need to be able to make the decisions that will kind of propel your business or just propel you as a person. So,
and I think that like your internal mindset is a discipline. It's like, you really do have the power to like live however you want.
Totally.
But a lot of people give in to these like impulsive emotions, and like if you can again have that discipline to I don't want to say curtail, but to shape your mindset, like in the way, like I always say, like what instant do you want to become your eternity? Like,
yeah,
all that really exists is your present, and
totally.
like you have to, like that's your biome. Like you have to be so strict about what that environment looks like, and it's like you can't have negative language. You can't like
yeah. And I think something that's funny too is I have kind of grown my team off a little bit of the idea like none of us really know what we're doing, and
nobody does.
No. And I think that's what's funny is, they'll kind of look at me for things and I'm like, you have to go teach yourself that. And I wish I had the answer for you, but let's see what YouTube literally says about this. It's kind of a joke building it off YouTube, but that's how I put my whole website together. That has literally how I've built this business. And I think it's just accepting that and knowing that I literally have no idea what it's going to take to, do the next thing that I want to do. But I think that just doing the little things slowly do build up, and it is really cool to see like, okay, we learned how to do this, so now we totally know how to do this. And it's funny because one girl who is on my team full time, she was my first employee at the smoothie shop that summer. So she's seen it all, and she's super close and friendly with my parents even and my family, and she's from my hometown. So I think it's just kind of funny because she knows me so well and I know her really well. So we're able to just kind of have that relationship of like, hey, let's just figure it out. We might be talking about like personal life things too half the time that we're together. But yeah, it's been really cool to just see that energy of like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to figure it out. There's no other option. We have to figure it out. So let's just do it together. And, that was really hard in the beginning when it was only me for so long and I didn't really have anybody to turn to. But thankfully I did have my parents to call and be like, I have no idea what this is going to take. And I think what I always kind of say is, have like an educated guess that it's gonna work out, but also just go for it. And what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? you're going to fail, but at least, you tried, and that's all that matters. So.
And I think like it's funny that you say that. Like I don't really think anyone knows what they're doing, but I think a lot of people are like looking for that guidance. And if you have the confidence to like at least make the leap, and use your intuition to say this seems like the best decision, just like having that confidence to jump in, is very, it's polarizing. Like if people follow that, because you're being a leader essentially, and it builds momentum and things start happening like as you are like essentially manifesting them.
Totally. And building a team, that's been really hard because when I don't know the answer to things, that voice kind of starts in my head of what am I doing here? How could I possibly be leading this company now? But again, I think hiring the right people, and I've honestly hired a lot of family and friends along the way kind of by accident, but I know people say not to do that. And at times I understand why. It can be a challenging dynamic.
Right.
I think it's also, for someone like me, I'm so young, and this all, did happen over the past 3 years. It's been nice to kind of have that trust and that loyalty with them, that the mutual respect is there. We would do anything for each other. And I think that's been cool because it's built, a team around family and friends, but it truly is like a family. I think I have up to like 15 people on my payroll overall right now.
Wow. That's a lot of people to manage.
A lot, yeah.
What's it been like managing people as a young entrepreneur? I know I've had some struggles with that.
Totally. Yeah, I think I always am honest with them. Even sometimes when I'm struggling with it, I think what the hardest part is, I honestly haven't heard it talked about too much, but you're managing everything. You're moving the needle constantly, and you're so used to being in your own world, and the business lives in your brain. And then it's like you're also still doing all of that at full speed while trying to bring someone on who has no idea what's going on and catch them up to speed really quickly. So I think I kind of thought it would be a lot easier than it has been. And they've been incredible, again, just to give me that grace and that patience along the way. And it's been one person at a time. But at the same time, it really hasn't been, because I had to open up the stores, which requires, so I brought on girls full time. They became full-time at the same time that I had like part-timers from college, college girls or whatever coming in too. So that's been super interesting. I think sometimes I'm like, all right, guys, on Mondays, no one talked to me. I need to just, be able to grind on Mondays and get everything together. But honestly, that never works anyways, because I have to talk to them about something or they need me or whatever. So I still get texts, calls, emails, constantly. And I think the thing is, I'm just so grateful to even be getting those, and that they really care about what they're doing. When they tell me any kind of report that happens, I just realize how much they care. So I think, to kind of answer that question, I think it's been super challenging, but I think hiring people who, it's just been really cool to see how much they care about something that I built, and now we're building it together. And I think just creating that relationship where they know how much I care about them as a person. And that honestly, I just want to be the cool boss, right? Half the time I am 24 and, they're all my age or younger. So I want to make sure I'm inspiring them while also caring about them as a person, but also making sure that they're getting the job done, and not just taking advantage of the fact that we are friends, or that, I won't get mad at them or whatever. So yeah, it's been interesting.
So having your other store so far away, how do you deal with that? Like putting the trust in your employees to like make sure the show is run to your standards, and like without micromanaging and without having that anxiety, like
right. So I travel back and forth a decent amount, especially in the summer. You're from up north, you understand kind of how it's very seasonal business up there. But I think definitely, again, just having the right people in place. Like I said, the girl who started with me is the one managing the store up there, and I definitely spend more of my time down here. But I think it's been cool for her to kind of, it's almost her thing now too. And I think like she knows that I put that trust in her and that she's seen it all. And also too, like, my family, our friends are always bebopping in the stores, so they know. But I think it's just been a lot of really good people. I think it has really made me nervous, just hearing so many bad stories about hiring, or that people aren't able to hire. But I think the energy that we've built in our store is so contagious. It truly makes me happy that, the girls who work for me are texting and calling me all the time being like, this person was just in, and, they said how great this was, or, oh my gosh, did you see this person who tagged us? How cute is that picture? And, any little thing that happens, I'm still sending texts to my parents. We're all freaking out. Like, did you see all the online sales today? Like, where did that come from? Like, we're all just always kind of so excited about every little thing. I think it's just a very, I hopefully always make it a happy environment. But yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I'm even like, how did all this happen, you know? But again, I think there's just so many small things. It's such my like purpose, I truly feel like, to be able to run a business. And I think to grow a team has been challenging. But again, I'm super honest with them about my struggles with that, of just how much I feel like, you know, I'm always trying to do. And then I'm also trying to give them my time. And that's very difficult to manage that, of like, how much should I be giving them? I just saw something that said like working in the business versus on the business as a business owner. So I think they, you know, really respect me too, because they've seen me, you know, throwing clothes in boxes around and bringing people up at the counter just as much as they see me, you know, on my laptop somewhere else. So,
and you said before, like, the New Jersey store is kind of seasonal, or like it's a seasonal town. And I grew up, like I told you, in Cape Cod, which is also a seasonal town. And I've seen businesses struggle because of that.
Yeah.
Has that posed any challenges for you, like running like a beachwear brand in seasonal environment?
Yeah, so we actually were, so I opened up Ocean City in May of 2023. So we just came up on 1 year. We actually weren't really seasonal. We stayed open most of the year this past year. I was really thankful to have one of my girls who like lived down there, and then the other one was close enough where she traveled back and forth. So I kind of told myself that it was just like their office. And I think that's been something that actually kind of got me into having a lot of faith in the stores, was I was like, worst comes to it, the rent is just kind of like what I would be paying for an office or a warehouse or any of that. Because I built out both of my stores to have really big back rooms. As you probably saw ours, like there's so much merch that just goes from the back to the front all day. And then we also like pack and ship orders out of our stores and all of that too. So I think I told myself, like, worst comes to it, you know, I always kind of have that mindset. All right, worst comes to it, this, you know, makes sense for this. But we've been super fortunate to have just awesome support up there, especially. And then I was super nervous to open up this store. I didn't know who would show up and if people even would. And same thing, I think we just have this energy on our social media. We always get really complimented for our marketing. And I want, you know, people to know that when they come here, it's going to be worth it. And whether they just love their sweatshirt or they talk to one of my girls at the register for 30 minutes and made a connection or a really great memory. So
as an entrepreneur, like by nature, I think a lot of us have a tough time like being satisfied. Like we're always chasing the next thing. How do you define success? Like what are you chasing after? When you look around and see this, like you'll know, what are those key aspects that you'll be like, okay, I made it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think I struggle, you know, to be content. And I think that's something that probably every business owner, we're really good at always seeing the next thing, what's down the road. But I think that's also how we can struggle to just live in the moment. So I think when, you know, right now I'm sitting in the store, we talked about, you know, mindfulness and stuff. It is challenging for me to sometimes just sit in what's going on and be like, wow. But I think the people around me really help me with that, to just be able to kind of live in the moment and be where my feet are. But I think success for me has truly just been that I'm making an impact. I think that's been it kind of from the start. You know, in the beginning, it obviously was like, all right, I really need to make money. I really need to make sure this is actually a business that's running so that I don't have to go back to college, you know, second semester, because I took just one semester off in that fall to see if this was all going to go. But just from the beginning, like seeing the kindness that people recognize that came from the core of Beachkrew, and they loved it and they were so excited. I just always tell myself, I'm like, how could I stop doing this? Then people wouldn't have something that brings them so much happiness. So that internal, you know, battle for me is definitely something that I deal with every single day. But I think just to know that like I'm serving other people well and my team is serving other people well, and even if it's just, you know, that I'm impacting the girls on my team, or, you know, get to have an opportunity like this to share my story and hopefully inspiring, like I said, girls, you know, or guys who are younger than me and about to do what you know, the entrepreneurial journey. I think that's truly where my success comes from. And just knowing that the stores and, you know, online business are doing well, where we can keep going, obviously, you know, that feels like success. But yeah, I think it's just knowing that what I'm doing has purpose. This is my calling. That's what makes me feel like I can keep going.
And then, so I have like one last question that I thought of, and I know you got to open the store here soon, but what is your take on college? Obviously, you prioritize your own business, but what's your takeaway? Do you think it's necessary, or do you think you can do without?
It's funny. I feel like I avoid this question because I never, I didn't go to college thinking that I would drop out. I went, really admiring education, and I know that it's such a privilege to be able to go to college. But it is so interesting. People hear my story and they're like, yeah, I don't even use my major anyways, or whatever. So I think you should never kind of just...
You're good. We always deal with this, some lawnmower or some lady on a conversation.
Right? It's never perfect. It's never glamorous. I think, again, I didn't have this business that was absolutely booming at the time that I was going into my senior year and dropped out. I think I just really knew at that point that it was a calling of mine and my purpose to run a business. And at that point I was like, well, I never want to have to go back to college, because to me that just would feel like I failed at my business. But at the same time, I was so ready to kind of get my degree and, hopefully then be really be a leader in my career in accounting or whatever. But I would just say to anybody who's struggling in college that I think it's okay to kind of accept that it's not the best 4 years of your life. I think that's what happened to me. I kind of got there and I was like, this is not what everybody kind of makes it out to be. And if it is, that's great. And everything. But if you're struggling, I would just recommend to start making connections in the entrepreneurship world or wherever, industry you think you might want to be in for business. And that will kind of just take you where you have to be. I don't think you should not go to college because, I want to start a business. I think it should just kind of happen. Your business should just start growing and then you can make the decisions.
You just got to follow your gut.
Follow your gut. Yeah. I think it all kind of happened for a reason that I ended up not going to college, but it was never the intention. It just wasn't what I thought it was. And I really wanted more and then just kind of being in, the sorority and going out and stuff. So I think for me, it was just kind of pursuing what I knew was meant for me.
That's good advice. What would be your last advice to someone watching this, maybe someone who hasn't made the leap into entrepreneurship yet, or someone who is just getting started? Or
Yeah. Again, I think it's knowing what your skills, your talents are, what you're passionate about. I think passion, can take you so far, but knowing that you're so capable of anything you put your mind to. I have to tell myself that all the time. But even my friends who are going through things, I'm always they get mad at me sometimes when I'm too just do this, just do that. But sometimes it really is just that simple of just making the decision. You have to take that leap. It's so terrifying. It's so scary. Know that you have some people who will support you, if all else fails, and still love you regardless. But just trusting yourself so much to be this is everything to me, and if I don't do this, I will regret it. Don't live with regret, just kind of run towards it. And again, just don't be afraid of what people think. I've surprised myself because I feel like I am that kind of person, who can be self-conscious like that. And I think this has really taught me that people will support you. And again, just have good intentions about what you're doing and make sure it's for a greater good, and you'll be really surprised what happens. Just go for it.
Well, where can people find you if they want to ask you some more questions or reach out, and where can they buy your gear?
Totally. So it's Shop Beachkrew online, shopbeachkrew.com, and then at Shop Beachkrew. So it's beach and then Krew, because I'm Karlee, Karlee with a K. Awesome. And then they can always, find my personal Instagram or whatever as well. We always answer our emails and all of that. They probably go to me anyway still. So
anything else you want to plug?
I don't think so. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to start talking about kind of how I grew this. So thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Totally.
All right. Well, that concludes episode 14 of Shakin' Hands. I'm your host, Jack Moran. You can find me on Instagram at Blue Collar Kid. That is Blue Collar KEHD. If you have any recommendations for guests or questions that you want to ask, please don't hesitate to reach out. But other than that, keep tuning in for some more interesting guests and conversations. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.